Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.
Hey everyone, I'm Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her Podcast. Today we have an amazing powerhouse guest. She is a flute-playing soul jazz artist, phenomenal of who has taken the industry by storm. With one of the consecutive Billboard top 10 singles of the 2022 Jazz Music Awards, Best of Everything. She is an amazing jazz artist, 2023 NAACP Image Award, trailblazer in the male dominant genre. She has proven that the talent, grace, and grit of a long way. She is not only an award winning musician and vocalist, but she also has a voiceover artist, radio personality, and proud mother of two. As she gets ready to drop her seventh album titled Ragan, where we are thrilled to have her here and share her story behind the music, the woman behind the flute, and the journey behind the success. Hey, Reagan, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm good. So, first of all, I got to get this out. Girl, so when Crystal reached out to me and she told me it was you, I got so excited because it's like a song that you like kind of remixed and you featured somebody and I loved it so much. And I heard it like some years ago. And I'm
Oh,
like, wait a minute, that's the same person. Girl, you be playing the heck out of that flute.
oh, thank you. Thanks.
I mean, it's so amazing because I love jazz music of how my mom raised me listening to it all the time. And just hearing yours is so soothing. I honestly play it while I'm cleaning up the house on Saturdays.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yes, for sure. So you had an incredible journey of the soul jazz world. What initially drew you into the flute as your primary instrument?
Well, I originally really was not interested in playing the flute at all. I wanted to play drums. And
Okay.
but in the fourth grade, when the band teacher comes around and starts recruiting for the band, I wanted to play drums, and he was like, "Well, there's not enough drums to go around, and all the boys want to play drums, so pick something else." And I said, "Okay, well then give me a trumpet." And then we're out of trumpets. It's like, "Oh my God! All right, so what do you have left?" And he said, "We have a flute and a clarinet." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I didn't feel like dealing with reeds, so I said, "Okay, just give me the flute, okay?" And it took me about a week to get a sound out of it. And
Okay.
meanwhile, like all my friends were like just picking it up and like to do, and I'm like, "What? Why? Why can't I do this?" And so finally, somebody told me, just blow across it like you're blowing into a bottle, and I was like, "Oh." And then suddenly it just clicked, and I started to like it. I started to get good at it, and I started to love it. And I started actually playing classical music. And I wanted to play jazz, but my teacher said, "You can play jazz later, get your foundation in classical, and then, do whatever later." Okay. So, so I started playing classical music, and I started to like it, and I started to get good at it, and I was winning competitions and things like that. And so I said, maybe I can make a career out of this. So I went to a classical conservatory. I went to two conservatories for college, and conservatory is very, very intense. And uh, by the time I got to my senior year, my heart just wasn't really in it anymore.
Mhm.
And so I graduated. I did everything I had to do to graduate, and went back home with this so helpful classical music degree and I didn't want to play classical music anymore. So I ended up going to this jazz club uh, in Scarsdale, New York, and it was a little tiny little jazz club, and Bob Baldwin and Marion Meadows were playing, and I was just blown away. And I was sitting right up front, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I go up to Bob after, and I, just introduced myself, and I said, I'm a classical musician, but I want to make the transition into jazz. What advice do you have for me? And we ended up talking for 40, 45 minutes. And after that, he invited me to a recording session, because he was recording a jingle for CD 101.9, which was the smooth jazz station in New York at the time. And I ended up playing flute on this jingle. And that night, like, the whole course of my life changed. Bob took me under his wing and was basically teaching me unteaching me, teaching me how to break all the rules that have been drilled into me all these years. And then Dennis Johnson, who owned the studio, was teaching me about how to make music with computers and how to run a session and recording and the whole thing. So it turned into like this 5-year boot camp. And out of that, I started writing music more. I had already been writing music, but I was writing classical music. And so now it's like, okay, well, let me see if I can switch gears here. And I started writing, and that turned into a 3-song demo. That 3-song demo turned into a 5-song EP. And that 5-song EP turned into a 14-track album, which was my first album, Class Acts, which came out in 2008.
Girl, you was not playing no games. You wasn't. It just shows the dedication that you had, and just the fact that you was going to start off with drums and you had to choose between the clarinet and the flute.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I would have chose that clarinet.
But you know what, though? I ended up learning all the instruments anyway.
Did you?
Because I like playing instruments. It was like that was my toy. So it was like, I play enough to be able to teach kids pretty much on every band instrument.
Girl, I wish you was my music teacher back then, because my mom had me playing the clarinet, and my music teacher, she was so old, so it didn't make me want to like get into it even more. So I wasted my mom's hard-earned money with a clarinet.
Oh no.
But I love music though. It was just amazing. So it's just good to just hear you actually just going through with it, because you are really dope, for real.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So as a woman in a male dominant industry, as far as like the jazz scene, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well, a lot of it was being taken seriously, because there's this stigma that women are not as good at music as men are. And that was something that's been going on like forever. I mean, even what was it? Can't remember who it was, but she's a piano player back in the 40s. And somebody actually, so she's phenomenal. I mean, she was just like ridiculous with it. And somebody actually wrote in the liner notes on her album, yeah, she plays pretty good for a girl. What? And I was like, are you serious right now? Who does it? So this is something that has been just a thing for decades. So you kind of already have this. It's like, all right, not that I have a chip on my shoulder from it, but I already know walking in that I have a lot to prove. And, and it was, so here I am, not only am I female, but I'm playing a flute. And, which is historically thought of as a very soft, very froofy instrument. And, but I don't play it that way, especially not live. I'm very percussive. I'm very aggressive with it. And so, a lot of times I would walk up there and they would just be like, oh, that's cute. She brought her little flute with her.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let her play. You know, she's kind of easy on the eyes. Let's let her play. And I'm just like,
Whatever.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that was what I just said. Those were actual words that were said to me, like
Wow.
word for word. Easy on the eyes. Okay. Well, you know, so now I'm just gonna, you know, get out this flute and I'm just gonna do my thing. And every time I played, I would gain a little bit more respect.
That's good.
And just over time, it was less and less of me proving myself. And you know, now it's just okay, let's get in here and let's collaborate and make the best music that we can.
Mm. That's really good because that's a great message, not knowing you sending a message, but that's a good message for women in the music industry because some women that I've known and encountered with, some men want their body, you
Mhm,
know, to
mhm,
be honest. And for you and just other women that I know personally to stand 10 toes down, like, no, this is my passion. This is what I like to do. I'm not gonna do anything like that to let myself go for
mhm.
me to be able to keep going my career. And a lot of times you gain a lot of more respect when you continue to be dominant in your own self for you to keep going because you could lose yourself if you don't keep going.
Yeah, yeah, you really can. You can.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm not saying that it's easy to do,
Yeah, I
um,
understand.
because I mean, you're gonna come across people that just no matter what you do, you're never gonna be good
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah,
So, you know,
that's
and so you
true.
just kind of shrug it off and keep it moving.
Yeah. So you have an upcoming album, Reagan drops in August.
Hmm.
And what inspired you to the direction of this project and what makes this album so different from other previous work that you've done?
Um, this album was done entirely after I quit my job. I was
Mm,
in corporate America for eons, and I was a software developer. Then I went into management, and the whole time, and it was good because you know pursuing music, you know, it costs money, you know. So I had this job um, to further my career financially and support myself, you know, so you're not like running back and forth trying to take every gig under the sun just to, you know, keep gas in your car.
mhm.
So, but I had gotten to a point where I was just miserable.
Oh,
And I mean, the money was great, but I was, you know, it started to affect my health. I was miserable. I needed to spend more time with my kids. Um, and I didn't have enough time for music anymore because the job had just gotten so time consuming and everything else. And so I made a plan, I saved up money, and just kept squirreling it away for years. And finally, I got to a point where I could quit. And I mean, it's not gonna, you know, I didn't save up enough money to last forever, but
yeah.
you
You
know, but
did it though.
it gave me a little oomph to say, okay, here's some space, here's some time, you're good. Focus on what you're doing and go for it. So that's what I've been doing. So that I'm coming up on 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in August that I left the corporate space. And so this album is really all about me finally being my whole authentic self and
Mm,
really focusing on my passions and the things that I love 100% of the time.
wow. I'm proud of you.
Thank
I
you.
like, I'm genuinely proud of you because just knowing you where I know everyone says so much about the corporate world,
Mhm.
and for you to even just take a leap out on faith and create an amazing album, because I already know it's gonna be the bomb. I can't wait to listen to it. For you to create something that's very passionate for you and everything, I pray that it'll work out and just blow up unexpectedly, not even you knowing, because it's just that hard work that you've been putting in for so long. And I'm sure you sacrifice a lot, even just being a mother as well.
Yeah.
It just shows like just so much powerfulness that you have, and just women overall. And I'm inspired, honestly.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Thank you. It's hard. And it's scary. It's very scary. But and it really tests your faith a lot.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so it's like after a while, you find out what you're really made of
Yes.
when you make that
So
kind of move.
like, speaking of faith, what was that breaking point when you was just talking to God? Was just like, yes, I'm gonna just step out and do it? Because sometimes, you probably been thinking about it for a while, but you
Hmm.
actually didn't just make the move. And that's where a lot of people get stuck at, and they
Hmm.
don't make the actual move. What was that move, that moment when you just had it in your mind and you just actually just did it?
Honestly, I was so stressed out that I started having chest pains.
Dang.
And I said, I am too young for this nonsense. And that was my wake up call. And it's like, you know what? Life is too short. Why am I doing this? Is it really helping still? That reason, when I first started um in corporate America, I was, it's fresh out of college, I'm doing um stuff that, I was like an admin at one point, and an assistant and everything. And you have, there was a level of responsibility that allowed me to do other things, and I could focus on the job for the 8 hours, and then leave it behind. But the further I got up the ladder, the more responsibility I got, and the less time I had to focus on the things that I really wanted to focus on, which was the whole reason for having the job in the first place. And
Yes.
so, and so once it got to that point, and then, add in the health stuff, and it was like, psh, nah, you know, sometimes you just have to close your eyes and jump.
Mhm. And it's just good to even just have that awareness, because sometimes it's hard for people to have that awareness with their body, and knowing when it's time to just stop and regroup and reset
Hmm.
and do something different. And it's good that you had that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and hopefully, I don't know if my kids are pretty young, so I don't know if they're aware of what was going on,
Mhm.
or even now. They just know that they see mommy more now.
That's
Mommy's at the
good.
bus stop, so I just hope that they can see that, you don't have to get locked into anything. Is it going to be a cakewalk? Nope. But but at the same time, you know, you got to go for it.
You do. You do. You got this, girl. You do. So tell us a little bit about the process of you creating Steppin' Out, and how did the collaboration with Rich Harrison and Phil Hamilton come about?
Well, stepping out, my husband actually wrote the tune, or co-wrote. He came up with the track. Now, my husband, just by the way, that guy who owned the studio that I went to record the jingle back in the day, it
Girl,
was
I
his
love
studio.
that. Okay. Girl, I love that. I swear Imma have my friend listen to it when I'm done. I
Yeah.
love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And Rich Harrison, he has played drums for me for years and years and years, from the very beginning. And then Phil Hamilton, he played uh guitar for Luther Vandross and, you know, all these people. And he's just got this way that he records his guitar. And he was from New York. So, you know, everybody kind of knew everybody anyway. The music business is like that big. So at some point, you know, you're going to run across people that, you you have access to, like, these amazing musicians. And so, and they have both played on almost every album, for at least the last 5 albums.
Wow. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
That's really good. So speaking of blessings, you've been blessed with 9 consecutive Billboard top 10 airplay singles. What do you
Now it's
think?
10. We just hit 10.
Girl, stop playing. See what I'm saying? See, getting out of that corporate, you got more coming when this album drop, okay?
Oh, I hope so.
Yes. So what do you think has been the key to maintaining that level of consistency?
I'm totally insane. No,
Girl, stop
no.
it.
It's like, you just the music that we do is kind of, all right, when you think about smooth jazz, the first person that comes to mind is probably like Kenny G or Dave Koz or Brian Culbertson, whatever, and they do that style, that specific style of smooth jazz. Our music is kind of on the fringe. My husband, he has a hardcore hip hop background, and he was a DJ, and he was a b-boy basically, and I love R&B. I love neo soul, and trying to incorporate all of that into the music that we do. The music tends to have a little bit more bump than a typical smooth jazz tune, which has worked both for us and against us.
Okay.
In certain situations, but we just do the music that we love to do, and I guess the theory is, if we love it, maybe somebody else will too.
Oh, they will.
So.
That's good thinking though. Seriously. That's good. So how do you balance being an independent artist and running your own label with your husband while still producing such a high quality music?
Again, I'm insane.
I knew you were gonna say that. I don't know why, but I just knew you was gonna say. I was like, I set myself up for this.
It's crazy. There really isn't any balance. It's basically knowing that, okay, you have a lot of balls in the air, and knowing which ones you can kind of let slip and it'll bounce back, and knowing which ones you let slip and it'll just break. So you just got to know, you got to kind of keep everything going, and you're constantly running back and forth just to keep them balls in the air. So there really is no balance per se, but that's why there's wine. So
You ain't lying. So speaking of wine, I'm sure you probably need some wine for this. So can you share a moment in your journey when you almost gave up and what pulled you through it to not give up?
Oh my goodness.
See,
I mean, honestly, I probably I quit probably once a month. In general, let's see, any one time. Oh, well, no, I'll tell you that one. No, there have been many times, and one, I remember I was doing a show, and there were a lot of important people in the audience, very, kind of star-studded, whatever. And this was very early on in my career.
Mm-hmm.
And the band did not do their homework, and we didn't have time to rehearse. The charts weren't, I don't know what went on, but it just fell apart. And I just wanted to just burst into flames and just ash away. It was just horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to put myself in this position, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I went to sleep on it. And I just, and in the morning I said, okay, what can I do, if anything, to mitigate this type of situation in the future, so that this will never happen again? And generally, I think I've been pretty successful with not having it happen again. Not 100%. There have been things, but every time it happens, you tweak a little more, you tweak a little more, you tweak a little more, and eventually you get to a point where you can pretty much minimize any kind of unforeseen drama.
Yeah.
And you can kind of handle it and steer it a little bit better.
It's so crazy. Like what you just saying, that you really got to like reverse that too, because at the same time, God will give you different things in life for you to learn from a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave you that lesson early on. And then for the future, you like, oh, I'm about to make some changes. That's not going to happen again. So it's like,
Right.
it's kind of hard to think it when it's happening because you're so upset.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of the steps that you've taken, it was for God, for you to see and for you to continue to improve and level up too.
Yeah. And I've definitely learned. And then, and then when it happens again and you forgot what you learned before, and then you're like, shut up. Sometimes I could be a little hard-headed, but yeah, but after a while, but there's always something, if you don't get the gig that you really wanted to get on, or somebody got a show that you wanted by imitating you, or stuff, like stuff like it. Look, it just runs the gamut. And and there's a lot of ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. There are a lot of disappointments, and after a while you figure out a way to deal with those disappointments and not want to quit every single day. That's why I've gotten it down to I quit once a month instead of every day.
You was crazy. Girl, sit down. Too much. So I know you play the flute so well, and a lot of times people only see like the amazing things that you are doing and the success that you're having. Behind the scenes, sacrifices is something they don't see. What are some of the sacrifices you've had to make that people wouldn't even expect?
Oh, I don't know if you wouldn't expect it, but I mean, sleep gone. I try my best to get. I have been prioritizing sleep a lot more now, but there have been many times where I would go to work, come home, inhale something, just, a little dinner, and then go to the studio and stay there all night, come back home, take a shower, and go right to work.
Hey.
and there were plenty of times where I did that. Not, saving up money, not going on that vacation so that, I can buy this piece of gear that, that will make life wonderful. It's always some piece of gear, right? Or a new flute or whatever.
Something.
Yeah, it's always something, but everything is for the passion. I mean, certain things you don't, like I've turned down some gigs because of, it would fall on my kid's birthday or a holiday that they really, enjoy and want to have their mom around, and I have passed on some gigs, so that I can be with them, and I'll do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, that's amazing. Bless your heart. So how did your transition into radio happen, and what do you love most about hosting your own Saturday morning show?
The radio thing kind of fell into my lap. I was doing a show, and the program director for WCLK in Atlanta was in the audience, and he comes up to me afterwards and he's like, well, that was really good and you have a great voice. How would you like to be on the radio? And I was like, I'm already on the radio. You play my music all the time. Thank you very much. And he says, no, as a host, as a DJ. And I'm like, well, I never actually considered it, but he says, all right, well, why don't you audition? So he sent me a script, to read, and I recorded it, sent it back, and went through the channels and all that stuff. And I ended up a couple of months later, I got the gig. And so, and of course I was scared to death because I really didn't know a whole lot about radio. I mean, you listen to the radio as a kid and you know the flow of it.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting there behind the board and you have the mic in your face and it's like, hi. What do I say now? So thankfully, the DJs that have regular shows every day, they really helped me out. Do this, don't do that, try to this, and they really they helped me so much, and they, it was like boot camp all over again. And so now I've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm a lot more comfortable now. And I really dig it. I love discovering new artists. I love discovering new music. I love rediscovering old music. And really, you just have you have access to this incredible music library and hearing stuff from around the world that, you wouldn't normally, get exposed to.
You have a radio voice too. You do. I can see you going really far with that as well.
Oh, thank you.
So from you working in radio, how has that influenced your approach from being an artist, but also being a radio host, as far as like you listening to other artists and just seeing how the business go when it comes to it?
It definitely opened my eyes to kind of like seeing behind the curtain and what goes into when a song gets played, what song gets played, where it ends up in a playlist and everything. And, so now I'm paying, like when I'm recording and everything and we're writing songs or whatever, if we know that a song, we're going to try to gear this towards commercial radio, we're not going to make that song 8 minutes long. You're going to make it radio time, which is around 4 minutes and 20 seconds, because that fits into the space that is needed between the DJ talking, any commercial spots that are being run, whatever. Then another thing, song intros, don't have some really long, awkward intro that doesn't grab the listener right away.
Yeah.
Let me hear the hook. Don't wait to put the hook in 2 minutes into the song. You know, it's like, it's like that will pretty much guarantee that you're not going to get played, or it might, I don't even know, it might not get added at all.
Dang.
So, you know, so it's like little things like that you don't really think about until you are trying to find, you know, trying to fill in a spot that's 3 minutes and 58 seconds, and you got to find a song to fit in there.
So we're gonna be looking for that reggae album coming out in August on the radio then.
Brian, we always swing for the fences. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you know.
Girl, have faith. It's gonna be there. It is. So if you could collaborate with any artist in the past or present, who would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. Let's start with past. You know, so living or dead.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Prince.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
Yes, definitely Prince. In their heyday, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Today, believe it or not, Doechii.
Really?
Yes.
You know what? I can't see that because you do have like a vibe too.
It's and I really, you know, I wasn't aware of her until, you know, she won the Grammy, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see. And I started, you know, looking at all her stuff on YouTube, and I was like, huh, you know, because I could hear her influences, you know, in her delivery, and you could tell she was listening to the right people. And as I, you know, it's like no disrespect to anybody, but I'm just not into mumble rap.
Okay.
I can't. I can't resonate with it. But but with her, I can actually hear I know what she's saying. I can hear what she's saying. The delivery is real slick. And I saw her Tiny Desk concert, and she had an all-female band.
Yeah.
I was like, look at this chick. This is all right, you know, and you know, had a horn section and everything. So yeah, I would love to collaborate with her.
I can see that. You would have been a vibe on that Tiny Desk. I could see that. They would have been like, wait a minute. She getting it. That's amazing. So what's a fun fact about you that most fans wouldn't know?
I love making flavored vodka. Like, you know, flavor infused vodka, and spirits in general. I really like to crochet.
What?
I crocheted a massive blanket for my king size bed. It took me 2 years to finish.
That's a big blanket.
You know, I didn't think it was gonna be done. Like when I actually did finish it, I was shocked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So tell us more about this album, and how can people listen to it as far as when they get ready to come out, and when you're gonna start promoting it even more, so people you gonna give us a little snippet or something, or preview video?
Well, Steppin Out is actually from the new album.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first single. You know, of course, we dropped it last year, and you know, in contemporary jazz, it's a kind of a different flow, so you can actually like drop a single every 6 months until the album comes out. So
okay.
So Steppin Out is the first one, and we're gonna have another tune that comes out at some point this summer.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna be ready. For
sure. It'll be on all the platforms, you know, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, Tidal, you know.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ragan. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise. This was fun.
Yes, it was, for real. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. Make sure you listen on YouTube and subscribe, and also listen on all major platforms audio. Thank you.
Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.